Welcome to Home Gym History. My name is Rob, and you can find me here on Home Gym History as well as on Vintage Weights PGH. And today I'm going to get into some of the deadliest lifts in history, and specifically in home gym history, with none other than Mark. Welcome, Mark.
Hi, glad to be here.
So, if you didn't catch my word there, listeners, that I wove into the intro, Mark goes by Deadliest Lifts on Instagram, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And why is that, Mark? What's the impetus of that name?
It just sounded like it would be a cool handle when I had to pick one. I think
Yeah.
originally I was thinking like Deadliest Catch, but Deadliest Lift. I was like, oh, it sounds kind of like Deadlift. It's like the Discovery show. And it just kind of became a self-fulfilling prophecy. It wasn't intentionally linked to the kind of stuff I put online, but it just kind of ended up working out really well that way.
Well, that's what I was curious about, because I mean, you're a formidable lifter and you lift an enormous amount of weight, but I mean, I'll just put it out there that I think a lot of people tune in to see all the kind of unorthodox lifts that you might do. So you had some of the names are great too. So, and I'm curious if you've invented kind of the titles for these. So the one is when you put your feet kind of parallel to each other as you're deadlifting.
Like cross them over.
And yes,
I feel like every possible stands for deadlifting at some point.
exactly.
So
like
be more specific.
I think you called it like the ballet lift, something like that.
Oh,
maybe.
I think maybe
But
maybe ballet. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Something like that.
Crossing the legs over.
Yeah, so it's not the same as when you see a guy pulling 700, 800, 900 pounds when you're scrolling through Instagram and you're like, wait a minute, this guy's got his feet all jumbled up. His head's in the ceiling for some reason. Like, what is happening? So, and I mentioned that too, because you have a drop ceiling in your home gym. And that's one of my favorite things is when you end up with your head in the ceiling because you're standing on stuff. Because I don't know, there's just something that's just a beautiful home gym kind of moment there.
Yeah, the first time I did that, it was just because I wanted to do a really high deficit, and I have a ceiling that's maybe a foot taller than my head, being 6'5". So I said I'd take it out just for the practical purpose. But then when I was rewatching the video, I'm like, I found something here. There is a secret spice on the kind of performance level here that I think is going to work out well.
I got to say, out of all the things I've seen you do, it's what really drew me in. So that secret spice of
the same for a lot of people. I've heard that a lot. That's usually the first thing people ask me. Are you online? Are you the guy who deadlifts with his head in the ceiling? So that's kind of what I'm known for now. Of all the things I've done, it's kind of like, all right.
There's a lot of worse things out there. That's a pretty good thing to be known for. It's not bad at all. So as far as your home gym, though, you said, did I hear you correctly that when you picked up the handle, you weren't exactly doing all those kind of wacky formations and stances and things just yet?
Yeah, yes and no, kind of. I had been doing maybe not quite the same absurd stuff I have, but I did like messing around with lifts that were either kind of like techniques that people call dangerous, like suicide grip stuff, or just benching atypical bars. And it was more just an expression I'd see people get so fixated on what is proper and right and safe and not.
Yeah.
And this was before I was on Instagram, either this on like other online forums. I'd see that and be like, there's nothing special about like your standard bench, your standard squat, your standard deadlift. You can do other things and be fine. And so I would, put my money where my mouth is and actually demonstrate that I can do these things and be fine. Yeah. So that's kind of where I got started, getting a little bit off kilter. And then I started discovering some of the odd lifts, like actual odd lifts, not my style of completely made up lifts, but like Jefferson deadlifts, stuff like that. And those are kind of fun to do. So I kind of started working them in because I'm not really like a power lift or any kind of specific lifter. I just lift for fun. So those were fun. So I did them. And then eventually Mikey, maybe me, who's probably more well known on the whole eagle lifting front, he had a competition.
Skateboards.
Yep, skateboard and everything else. Yeah, he's got his own special brand performance.
Now,
yeah. Well, he had a competition 2 Novembers ago for eagle lifting, which is basically just all the weird lifts. And I'm like, that's my thing. Someone pointed out to me, like, I guess I can upload some. So I just uploaded a few videos, and then they got some good response. I'm like, well, I guess I'm using Instagram now. And it just kind of took off from there.
That's interesting because I wanted to get to that, like the Mikey Maybe B stuff. So you kind of touched on that. But then Jefferson deadlift, I think you just won 200 and $22,
in
if
$2
I'm
bills.
correct, in $2 bills, no less, from Massonomics. Congratulations. That's nothing to sneeze at, man. I spoke with Tanner recently. He was kind enough to come on to my YouTube channel, Vintage Weights PGH, and I had asked him about like the fixation with Jefferson deadlift, like where'd that come from? And I won't retell the whole conversation. Listeners, viewers, you can go just listen to it yourself. But what I'm getting to here is that the thing that you mentioned there, how like, wow, there's all these other lifts, and how people are so rigid about like, oh, is this sumo's cheating, or is this proper, or do you have to do this? That's kind of what Tanner said, why they thought it was funny to fixate on Jefferson, because it kind of negated the whole sumo versus conventional conversation. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue conventions with a man with his head in the ceiling, you know? So,
I mean, I like to kind of shove the whole deadlift stance debate by pointing out that, like, I can pull over 855 pounds in all the stances. I can jack,
exactly.
Hack, Jefferson, sumo, poorly, and conventional, and some of those are even better. It's just like they're all pretty similar. Like, none of these, with a few weird exceptions for complete genetic anomalies, which grants I am one. No one's getting that much more out of any other stance, and it all kind of washes out when you average things out. At least that's what I think. So all the, especially the sumo stuff, just yeah. I mean, they train different things, and obviously, if you can use any kind in competition, well, if you can use one of two kinds in competition, or if you're like me and you just want to deadlift as much as possible, then you can use any kind you want, then why are you limiting yourself just because you think one is cheating when it's explicitly not?
And I mean, since I love history, I've been practicing kind of like your curiosity of things. I've been practicing some old time lifts that aren't popularly done all the time. I've been trying to learn the bent press, and I've been trying to learn some other kind of things, Steinborn, and an Arthur lift, which is, you know, looks painful, but really isn't that bad. So where I'm heading with this is that I wanted to ask you about some of these old time lifts. And of course, being the deadliest lifter that you are, I wanted to try to find as many dangerous ones that I could. So, you know, I ramped it up though. I'll start kind of like, okay, it's an elephant, and we'll work up to like, whoa, what is this? So yeah, let's switch over here. I'll pull up some images to help. So listeners, and if you're just listening and not viewing, you might want to view at this point.
So that is the hip lift?
That's the back lift.
I mean,
so
back lift. You're right.
Back
lift,
nothing quite. Yeah. Nothing. So what we're looking at is Louis Cyr, famous old-time strongman, and Louis Cyr performing the back lift, which I guess the danger is there, getting crushed. Very small range of movement involved. On the left, he's got, I don't know, a dozen people sitting up there. And then on the right is one of his best lifts. It's 3,536 pounds of pig iron, purportedly. On the right is a drawing. So, yeah, it's one of those things. I don't know if they fact-checked it. So have you ever done a back lift, Mark?
I have never done a back lift because it is a lot to set up. Like, I don't know how.
True.
I mean, I've gone to some lengths to set up some weird lifts, but like this requires, I think, an engineering degree if you want to do it with any kind of safety. But it's actually funny because literally just, I think, 2 days ago, I was talking to some people about the back lift because I mentioned that I have a vastly excessive amount of weight of like 4,500 pounds worth of plates at this point. And they're like, can you lift all those at once? I'm like, I don't think so. And they're like, what about a back lift? I'm like, maybe, because I'm pretty sure the world record, the questionable one's like 6,000 pounds, and the slightly more official one's still in the 5,000 pound range. So maybe.
Only one way to find out.
But they did show me a video of there's at least one gym out there that has like an actual back lift machine that someone made, which seems like the strangest lift to try and actually go through all the hassle of making a machine for. But it made it look a lot easier than some of these steps, which are basically, you know, stacking a ton of rocks on like a board.
I mean, if you imagine like a leg press, only tilted
for your whole body.
Yeah, parallel to the floor. That's basically what you need. And if you had the machine, save a little time. So then how about lifting people? That's a popular old time strongman kind of pursuit. This is the Saxon brothers. And, you know, it's tough to see probably from your end, Mark, but if you look closely in all the little images of the poster, they're lifting people in various ways. Have you lifted people?
I have done a little bit of attempts lifting people. I think I have one video where I have my farmer handle frame, and I have, I don't know, 600 pounds on that, and then another like 300 pounds worth of people, or I think I ended up like 900 pounds solo, whatever it was. And that
Nice.
is, even just those two people staying on either end is significantly more difficult than just the plates, because they're not equal weights, they're shifting a little bit. So I can definitely appreciate that lifting a person is significantly harder than lifting a plate or really any kind of traditional loading tool, because
It's
they
a
are
spectacle.
yeah, they're dead weight, they're floppy, they're not consistent, they're wiggling around. It's like lifting with bands. If they were also like shifting their weight upwards, they had to balance a little bit. So yeah, I can definitely appreciate the difficulty of lifting people, and it is very spectacular for sure. I just
this is one of my
been
favorites.
able to convince people to let me lift them yet.
Well, this is Chuck Ahrens. He's I mean, he should be more well known, but I mean, he's a monster of a lifter, and he's on Muscle Beach in the 1950s here. And this is a famous picture with a 75-pound girl on his arm.
Mhm.
So, you know, you could go this route where there's not much setup, just like, hey, do you mind standing here for a minute? So it's
I think that would
possible.
reveal my weakness of shoulders, which is my most glaring point. I try to hide. You're like, you're so strong. Why aren't you a strong man? I'm like, well, my press is complete garbage, and this is slightly advantaged lateral raise, maybe.
Okay, well then how about the famous Herman Gorner? He's got a bar. I think this is the most common way I see old time strongman lift of people happening when I'm like on social media. I've seen like Eddie Hall pressing people hanging onto a bar. I think Larry Wheels did that.
Yeah, this is like the only modern version I've seen mostly lifting people is having people in that same position. So the majority of the weight's leaning down, so you don't quite have the same amount of balance going on. They kind of self-correct. It's like a camber bar.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah, exactly. The weight displacement's a little off. The one on the right, though, you know, he didn't like the one on the right's about 10 years later, where he has barrels and he has two gentlemen on either side. At this point, he wouldn't press them overhead, but he would just support them. He would basically stand up with them.
It's a chain yoke. That's what that is, basically.
Yep,
just
pretty much. So those gentlemen would be. Yeah, they would start by standing on those barrels, and then Gorner would just stand up with it. So there you go. That might be your lift. You know, you might be able to avoid the pressing and still have a bunch of people.
I'll have to see if I can lure some people into my basement.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if not people, how about animals? So like Milo, the classic lifting the bull. But animals have been a big part of strongman, old-time strongman at least. This is Eugene Sandow. This one I spoke about a couple episodes ago, earlier episodes of Home Gym History, where he didn't exactly lift it. He kind of supported the pony. Like off stage, this like machine had the pony up in the air for him, and then he just had
like an above arm. Yeah, it's still like a static hole. That's still a lot, especially because I'm imagining the pony wasn't cooperating. Unless they heavily drugged it, which is entirely possible for that era.
Yeah. For the turn of the century,
they probably drugged it.
Well, have you ever lifted an animal of any substantial?
I have lifted my dog, and here.
There you go.
Come here. You're going to be a podcast.
Let's see what this beast of the basement looks like here.
Come on.
Am I correct to assume you have a basement, Jim, since you have a drop ceiling?
Basement and garage, and I think I'm going to have to move my rower to my guest bedroom to make room for more crap. So it's kind of expanding to a whole house gym.
I have been posting lately all this like old school Nautilus machines with the chains that have been catching my eye, and I have a small home gym, and I'm like, well, I could squeeze like 4 of those into my garage. So yeah,
that's how it starts, or maybe ends.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is a little more of a lift. So this dude, I really enjoy this guy with the horse. He's got it harnessed beneath him, and then what he's doing, this is Warnell Travis, and in 1907 he's lifting, I'm sorry, this is William Pagel of South Africa, excuse me, for all you old-time strongman enthusiasts that are dropping hate comments for me mislabeling this dude. A 1,000-pound horse, he would climb up these ladders. So like he would kind of do like a dip, if you would, to push up and then put his legs in and then do another push up with his leg, and he would alternate so that he could kind of spread
like a side ladder
fatigue
crawl with a 1,000-pound horse dangling from a harness.
So he would start with like on the horse's back, and then he would go up those two ladders with the horse dangling below him. So
That
that it's looking a little more deadly. Like things could
yeah,
go
that
vastly wrong there.
the funny thing is that is something I was trying to think of how I could do because I wanted to do essentially a lift very recently where I just like put like a safety squat bar on my back and climb something, but there's just not much that I can climb. But this would
Two
seem like
ladders.
this would be something you could climb with a heavy amount of weight. I just kind of
Yeah.
ended up stepping up on some plates in my seat in my basement.
I mean,
I was thinking like if I could climb a tree, start with the dog,
Yeah.
work up to a slightly larger dog, and then eventually
Yeah.
get to the full pony.
Well, as you mentioned with the time and era, I don't know if a pony would be acceptable in today's day and age, but it was popular. Here's the man that I mentioned, William Travers. He had like a contraption where these chains were all hooked up to him, and then he had two horses brought out onto it, and then he would lift up. And he was basically doing what Thomas Topham did, which was the birth of what some people consider the deadlift, where he had a harness lift, and he would essentially do like a small movement there to lift this heavyweight below him. But then we get to my favorite. So this is Gorner the Mighty wrestling an elephant, and it's a baby elephant here at the start. But then by the end of the tour, well, the elephant grew. So he started out and the elephant, everything was going well. And at the start, because they would sign on for these tours, like he'd go on a tour of South Africa for like 4 months, or he'd go on a tour of Europe for 4 months. Well, he started this tour with this baby elephant that weighed about 700 pounds. And even though he's quote unquote wrestling it, the real like strength involved is that once the elephant put its front legs on his shoulders, he had to support the weight. By the end of the tour, the elephant was up to 1,500 pounds, supposedly. So quite
replace the proverb of the farmer who carried his pick up a mountain every day until it was fully grown. Exactly. I think this is a much more exciting story of the same kind of general premise.
So, if you just get a small animal and then you just, you keep
wrestle
on
it every day.
Exactly.
Get a small elephant and wrestle every day. Eventually you'll be able to wrestle a large elephant.
I've read about this whole Gorner the Mighty wrestling an elephant in several different sources. I have not heard of it actually like trampling him or anything like that. So that doesn't win the prize. This is the deadliest lift with an animal, and it goes to a lady named Katie Sanduina, who went by Sanduina the Great. So it's kind of tough to see from your angle, but if you look at the very bottom, there's on the left, there's it looks like two black horses on the left. And she's laying down, and then she's got
like
basically
a neck harness.
Neck harness, and she would brace her whole body, and then the horses, there's a man next to the horses that then would lead the horses away from her, and she would hold still and be able to fight against the horses pulling at her neck. So that gets the deadliest lift, being basically strangled by horses.
I want to see like the comment sections for some of these lifts if they were recorded and posted to Instagram today, because just recently I did like a hangman's deadlift where I had the rope going over like around my neck and down my back, and then used it kind of like probably like kind of yoke deadlift over the back of their neck, and they have like rope going at the bar and the whole dance.
Sure, especially when someone's injured or something. Yeah,
kind of like that. Just like as opposed to having like a harness just goes across the neck. So I did kind of backwards, so it's around my kind of neck, and then maybe more on the like collarbone area. But so looped around over the back around the bar and held back and did like a hack deadlift like that.
Okay.
And I got so many comments about the danger and just like many jokes about autoerotic asphyxiation. And I just want to see what this lift would get, given that this is far more in line with actual danger to the neck than anything I did.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine if one of the horses took off, something like that. But that brings us to kind of full circle back to what you're talking about with, maybe trying to lift literally all the weight you own. So instead of a back lift, it was an old time strongman thing to support basically a lot of things, whether it's cars or horses. This is Eugene Sandow he'd have a soldier ride a horse over him. Or in this case, cars were very popular. The Saxon Trio, they would hold up these planks with their legs, and then a car would drive over them. So any chance of letting a car drive over you?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be on board for letting a car drive over me. But again, the issue with this is I have limited engineering know-how and honestly limited patience to build a giant train track apparatus to do my lifts. Like I'll set up some weird lifts, but like a lot of these things are showing they require like a full. These belong out like a Rogue Invitational. Like they've built some pretty elaborate things. They need to bring
I
some
think
of
what
these
you're
back.
saying, Mark, is that if there's a company listening, he's looking for a sponsor. That's what he's
Yeah,
saying.
if there's a company, maybe like even a carpentry company or a building
Yeah, you
company
know.
that wants to sponsor me and come to my house and build strange,
Yeah,
apocryphal lifting
yeah.
implements, I'm all for
Well,
it.
I promise you, though, don't worry. There's a full arc to what I'm showing you here because we're going to end out with just barbell stuff. So
All
because
right, good. So we're
I
gonna
want
go
to make
full
sure
circle.
we'll come back. We'll get to the weird, and then we'll
What
come back in
I
the
what I
barbell.
really want to know with all these elaborate like buildings, basically, is
Yeah,
how Atlas Power Shrug is going to reconcile this very old school lifting with his hatred of the strongman industrial complex. So I think if he
yeah.
listens to this, he's going to have to do some soul searching.
I follow him, and I love his posts, but he's very I don't know how to phrase it.
He
He
sticks to his guns.
he sticks to his guns. That's a perfect way to phrase it. He sticks to his guns. So I really don't think this is going to sway him. So this is Gorner again. If you can't tell, Herman Gorner is one of my favorite old time strongmen.
Mhm.
He would have a ballet troupe that would perform on him. So you can have people over your house. You can get some wood. You know, that's not too bad of a setup.
Yeah.
And but he'd also have a car, but he would actually lift this. So the car would drive up, and then it wouldn't just drive over him. Gorner would like stand up with it, and you can see the ramp. There's about 6 inches of clearance there.
Yeah,
It's on his
this is way
shoulders.
better than the modern car deadlift. They should make this
Yes.
the car deadlift the strongman.
I mean, there's a bit of safety involved with it, though. That there's a basically like a sawhorse. It looks
Yeah,
like
there's a safety spotting tool. Yeah, it's fine.
sure, that's something there to catch it. So I'm kind of lending to that. All these cars driving over you. This one, I thought, okay, we're getting more dangerous. This is Strongfort. He would have a human bridge where it would then tilt. So as the car got up there, it was like a seesaw effect. But I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you if you've ever heard of the Mighty Atom.
The
So
Mighty Atom. I don't
the
think I've heard of
Mighty
the
Atom.
Mighty Atom.
This is the Mighty Atom, and he gets the deadliest lift for people or things climbing on or over you. So, deadliest lift award goes to Mighty Atom.
What am I looking at here?
He has
Is
long
he
black
like
hair, and he's below the bass drummer. And there's a full ensemble of a band that's on him. But here's the catch that you can't quite see in the picture. So I'll read it's hard to read the
Mhm.
description down there. I'll read it for you. It says, "This is Mighty Atom in 1939 lying on a board that's studded with sharp pointed nails. And he supports 17 members of a band and their instruments to entertain crowds at New York's Coney Island. The total weight of the musicians and platform is well over a ton. And here's the catch that he had to remain in position for 15 minutes just to allow for everyone to get into position. And then another 15 minutes he had to remain in position for them to get off. So there's like a whole half an hour involved where he's got a nail studded
Into a
board.
nail bed.
Yeah, on a nail
I
bed.
never want to hear in the comment section again about how lifting has become wrong with social media. Now it's just all for this attention grabbing and all these dangerous stunts for likes and views. When this was happening, what, 100 years ago?
Yeah, 1939. So, Mighty Atom, he's something else. So we're gonna get as strange as we can before the barbells and stick with Mighty Atom because he was well known actually not for this. He was mostly, at least I always heard of him, for his hair and teeth lifts. So what we're looking at here is a gentleman who's supporting all these other dudes on a barrel, but he's not holding it with his hands. He's holding it on a little tab of leather, if you will, that's in his mouth. He's holding it with his teeth. So have you ever done a teeth lift?
Yes, about 3.5 months ago, I dislocated my shoulder and I couldn't use it. It was in a sling for a few days. They wanted it in a sling for 2 months, or not 2 months, 2 weeks at least. But I didn't do that. That's terrible advice. But like 2 or 3 days after my dislocation, I knew I wanted to keep doing fun lifts because I wasn't going to let everyone in the comment section telling me I was going to one day cripple myself have any kind of satisfaction. So I took my figure eight straps, I looped them together, and I put one end around the barbell, and I grabbed the other end of these 4-year-old figure eight straps that I'd never washed and were probably fully impregnated with blood,
Yeah.
sweat,
Who
tears,
knows what?
all the good stuff. And I used that to deadlift with my teeth, and I found that it's almost not the bite strength that gets you, at least in that kind of deadlift movement. It's just that's a lot of torque on your neck. So that might have been the limiting factor. Whereas this is kind of like a lever deal where it's pulling straight out, but still.
Yeah, this was long before Mighty Atom. Mighty Atom pulled cars and planes and all kinds of stuff with his teeth. He performed in Madison Square Garden. This is 100 or so years before the Mighty Atom. This is, let me get his name right, Senor Lawanda, who was nicknamed the Iron-Jawed Man. So it was definitely a thing. York Barbell, I mentioned this on a earlier Home Gym History episode with Manu Parks and Jim about like the oddest products in history. And York Barbell used to sell a teeth lifting kind of leather strap, and you'd have to send in impression of your teeth, and they would cut it to the shape of your mouth just for teeth lifting.
I think that would probably help a lot, because I found that with just a kind of a regular strap, like you only get so much contact with the teeth. You only get like the very tips, and that if it starts pulling, you're kind of afraid, like, oh, if it catches that tooth, then that's a trip to the dentist. So I would like to get a
he would chew through chains. Like he would bite through chains. Oh,
he's probably fine then.
Yeah, he'll be all right. So yeah, that was a thing. But these are all like really, we've strayed far from home gym possibility, which you astutely pointed out. Like, I'm in my home gym, I can't build like a huge contraption, so why don't we just look at some barbell kind of feats of old time strongmen? So this is back to Herman Gorner, and this is a barbell sway press. So there's two barbells, one in each hand. Okay. And what he would do is then with one in each hand, go from a deadlift and try, it's called a sway press, because he would try to basically bring them up overhead.
So like a snatch where you just have like a...
Pretty much. It's like basically doing a one-handed snatch on either side of you.
But that's go straight out. You can't sheet up like that. You have to do the full lever.
Don't think this was a judged event, and you could probably cheat however you want.
I think just I think that you couldn't actually avoid hitting the ground if you tried to snatch like up and then like a traditional snatch. I don't know. What this reminds me of, if you probably follow him too, you know, Lucian Silvio Kreuter, right?
Oh yeah, yes.
This is his alley. Like he is probably the truest representation of doing all the old strong and circus stuff that there is still around today, because he really sticks to the stuff like this. Like I think I've probably seen him do this.
Well, I didn't think of you with this one. I did think of you, though, with some of these diagrams of Gorner. So Gorner, he was famous for lifting a barbell basically in every grip position you could imagine, which kind of speaks to what you were saying. You try every stance possible with a deadlift. Well, people call it a Reeves lift, but well before Reeves, Gorner was grabbing the plates. He would do a two-fingered deadlift, where it was just his index finger and thumb.
It looks like is he hooking? Is he using hook grip with just two fingers?
With just a finger.
He's got to be using hook grip if he's lifting that much weight, actually.
Well, he did the two-finger lift. Here's a picture of it before we go to this picture, on the left, I thought this was kind of interesting from a deadlift perspective. He's doing an overhead press. But I thought it would be kind of interesting to do an offset deadlift, grab the sleeve, and then grab the far end and see if you could.
I have long arms, but I don't know how much clearance there is between arm distance and the beginning of my crotch to fit that one.
That's
maybe
true.
if I use really small plates.
Load up,
use 35s or something,
Nothing but 25s, yeah. That is true. But here he is with the two-finger lift. This is a photograph of him doing it, and this was his personal best, 595.5 pounds in 1933, with his index and thumb. So
you can't really see what he's doing. I'll take his word for it.
I've seen you lift way more than 595, so it might be in the cards. Try a index finger and thumb lift.
I can't. I don't know if my fingers are that strong. So I can
one-footed lifts, balancing. You mentioned having a dislocated shoulder. Have you ever had a broken ankle, something, and had to go one foot?
The only significant lifting injury I've had in my entire 10-year career has been this dislocated shoulder, besides the obvious little muscle tweaks and stuff. So no, I've been doing pretty good, which is very surprising in the eyes of some people.
I mean, the banner behind you says "Welcome to Snap City," and I assume that refers to broken bones. Am I wrong in that assumption?
No, if we're going to that side, that's I got that maybe not long into when I started Instagram because Snap City is just kind of like a meme. And I saw that a lot, and also in comment sections like, "Oh, you're gonna snap." It is, well, yeah, snapping your back. You go to Snap City. I'm like, well, all right, I'm just gonna roll with that. I'm gonna take that one back.
Just embrace it.
It became its own, I guess, brand.
Well, this is one I would think would fit in with Snap City. This strongman was known for jumping forward and then backward over the barbell that he had deadlifted.
I don't know how he did, because I have wanted to try that. I've done a lift that someone else has called the walking deadlift, which is just a conventional deadlift, Jefferson one stance, hack, Jefferson counter stance, and then the last conventional, so you're walking across the barbell. And I've tried to do that where I don't release the bar, keep the straps on, and I just do not have the flexibility. Once you're down there locked into the bar, like getting a foot over even when it's on the ground, I can't do it. I cannot step over the bar with my feet down the low. It's just not enough flexibility in my hips. So I have absolutely no idea how he's doing that, to be completely honest.
His name is Roldondo, and Roldondo, he would jump back and forth. In the picture here, that's 130 pounds. So we're not talking enormous weights. That's 130 pounds, but he's taking it from the ground.
Mobility thing.
Yeah, exactly.
He's doing it mobility-wise.
Yeah, he's going back and forth jumping. And then his personal best, though, was 200 pounds. So that's pretty good. 200 pounds jumping back and forth. And
I'd like to see someone do it with an empty barbell, honestly.
Yeah. I did say we were going to go away from the strange, but I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Frank Cannonball Richards. Have you ever had something, and I don't even know why it counts as a strongman, but he would stop a 104-pound cannonball.
I'll give it. I think that's a feat of strength, a feat of core.
I mean, you're bracing.
Yeah,
and as a deadlift specialist like you are, you probably have a very good core, very good at bracing. Have you ever thought about having something shot at your torso?
If I get to the point where I'm getting a full-size cannon for my home gym, I'll probably check myself into some kind of psychiatric care, or at least write some kind of affidavit or whatever it is to make someone else put me in psychiatric care, because I'm probably too far gone at that point.
Well, I mean, I was thinking more along the lines of like, a buddy's over, hey, throw this med ball as hard as you can. Like a home gym version of Cannonball Richards.
Maybe I'll drop a bar on me. I'll let gravity do it.
Yeah, AbMat makes those like really solid. So get one of those AbMat balls, and that's a perfect sponsor.
Take bands and make a conjugate and like a big slingshot.
Perfect. Conjugate cannonball. Conjugate cannonball. We just invented something. Give me 1 second to jump off this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. So we're going to stop that, but keep recording. All right, cool. And we're back. So, yeah, conjugate cannonball might be a thing in Snap City. We can pull it off.
I've got bands. I've already dinged up my walls, my ceiling enough. At this point, if a little more damage is nothing.
Behind you is your camber bar, spider bar. I don't know.
That's a spider bar, yeah.
Spider bar. There you go. So spider bar. I couldn't see behind your head the kind of SSB portion of it. So I've seen you do various things with that. I've seen you do with your bench. You kind of invert it, if you will, and bench the bench. Is that the best way to put it?
Yeah, it's an actual bench press.
Yeah, the actual bench press. In my mind, when I looked at some of these, I thought, oh, this is easy. Like, you're already stabilizing with the bench.
Sneak up on you.
Have a couple people sit on it. Like, there you go. You're lifting the bench. Have them sit on the bench. Like, there it is. So I think where I'm going with this is in my opinion, you connect to these old-time strongmen quite a bit because, it was less a competition and more of a performance.
Mm-hmm.
And you did win a couple competitions here. You are the Massonomics Jefferson Deadlift Champion, 2023. And Mikey, maybe me's
World Ego Lifting Champion 2022. No, that was 21. Ego
21.
Olympics 22.
Ego Olympics 22, Jefferson Deadlift 23. I mean, you do have some competitive spirit.
It's a real resume, yeah.
Yeah, but so did the old time strongman. They would have a little competition with each other and say, I'm the strongest. But mostly it's performance. The one difference is they were getting paid. And on Instagram, you're just doing the world a service, Mark.
Pretty much, yeah. It's very selfless of me.
Yeah. So listeners, viewers, go out there and follow Mark. He is doing the world a service. He is performing these things. And I think all it would take is a little company sponsorship to get a car to drive over this guy. Like, that's it.
Yep. If any automotive dealers, construction companies, builders, they want to build a car driving over people apparatus and take all the liability, and I will let them drive a car over me, and I'll wear a shirt with their logo on it.
I mean, he's busy training for Zuckerberg right now, but if Elon Musk hears this, Tesla, come on. This is perfect. Because it'll be quiet. It'll sneak up on you. So, I think a more apt thing would be kind of like I mentioned with like the AbMat ball or with the indestructible ball that they have. They like blow it up. They do all kinds of stuff with it. You could turn the tables. Like, are you indestructible?
Am I more indestructible than the indestructible
from
ball?
The indestructible ball hunting you down, and being thrown at you, being dropped on you when you least suspect it. I think it'd be a match made in heaven.
Well, I will say, if any company wants me to use and abuse their equipment, just feel free to send it to me. I'll find something to do with it.
Well, your various bars, your bench, anything else in your home gym that you like to incorporate in kind of original or interesting ways?
I feel like it's most of the time sticking to, at least down the basement, just like granted, the wide library of barbells, but
yeah.
I've used like the Denny Stow rings before. Those are fun to play with.
Nice.
Obviously, machines, they don't really work so well for the weirdest, I don't think. I mean, some people do. If you have like a fully stocked gym and free reign of it, you can do some really goofy stuff with that. But some of the stuff I do is very theatric. But then if you're just like lifting a bunch of machines, that's kind of becoming almost pure theatric. At least try to keep some kind of actual strength into the movement most of the time. I mean, sometimes they get a little bit way off track. It just gets really goofy, but I like to make it a lift that is both a spectacle, but also a display of kind of an atypical aspect of strength, if that makes any sense.
No,
so
it
like
does.
Adding stability to a lift or adding just like the weird stances like that definitely challenges you, because like your knees are kind of weird angles and you're holding a lot of load on them. So I assume that's got to be tendon strength or something. I mean, I'm not an anatomist. I don't know, but a lot of my lifts, they are challenging. They're working things that you wouldn't normally work. And granted, I'm not suggesting anyone start training like goofy lifts. Like, I'm very, very clear that they are for fun. They look neat. They're one and done. Don't fill your lifting days with these weird lifts because you think they'll make you strong like me. Yeah. I get strong with pretty normal lifts. I just take that strength and I show it with weird lifts. So I don't want any impressionable youths too.
What's your balance in your training between a conventional type of training program and then, all right, now I'm going to flip this bench over and see how much I can bench it? What's the split?
Every day for most of my blocks. Like every once in a while, if it's a really intense block, I might plan a rest day. I'll take rest days as needed. But so 7 days a week, that's all fairly typical standard training. And basically the only time I'm goofing off is what you see posted. Like, I'm not preparing for these lifts by practicing them. I just get an idea. I'm like, how far can I take this? And then by the end of that hour, it's done. Unless I decide to come back to it a couple of months later and see if I got any stronger. So I'm not trying to get stronger with these goofy lifts. That would be a colossal waste of time in my mind. It's just as far as I can get in 1 hour of playing around with it, or even half an hour of playing around with it, that's the full extent of what I'm putting into these weird lifts. So
interesting.
It's not it's not part of training. It's just kind of a little tacked on
spontaneous thing. Kind of thing that just kind of comes to you. That makes it even more kind of interesting to me that that
don't practice for them.
It's in the moment. Yeah, you weren't leading up to this. You were just thinking, all right, I got the spider bar. Well, what happens if I take these? So that's cool. And then the home gym itself. How long have you had a home gym?
Since March of 2020. Like, I'm guessing a lot of people.
Okay, so you were a
Like I
COVID
was
home
actually,
gym.
yeah, I
COVID
was
shut down.
sitting. I was sitting. I distinctly remember I was sitting on the bench at the commercial gym that I still go to,
Yeah.
and I was just reading things like, "Oh, gym is going to shut down." I'm like, okay, I'll buy a rack, bench, bar, and then I'll have it and use it for like supplemental stuff at home. Worst case scenario. So I put that order in on that bench while I was sitting during my bench press, and like literally half an hour later, like the announcement goes off, like you guys have to leave. They just closed all the gyms. So
You snuck right in there. Like you were
right in there, yeah, right before everything
very.
got completely sold out.
Hey, I mean, you're coming up with these lifts in the moment. You're making good decisions about buying a home gym in the moment. It sounds good to me. And then, so that leads to one of my other kind of things I've wondered. In a commercial gym, have you done any of these things? You said you're still going to your commercial gym.
Yeah, I try to. I don't do the goofy stuff at the commercial gym. Like
Yeah.
before I had the home gym, I had tried like some Jefferson deadlifts, which I don't think are that wacky. I did bring in a towing strap once to do like a minimal range of motion toe strap deadlift, where basically just support over my back and then lift the bar like 3 inches or whatever. I think that's the most atypical thing I've ever done in the home gym. But even then, that's just kind of using a lot of plates, and my gym has vast abundance of plates, so it's not really a concern. But it's just I would feel weird doing it at a home gym because a lot of stuff like if I drop plates and they go flying and really might hit someone, I don't want to break the gym owner's equipment. I don't want to create a spectacle and bother people. Like I'll do it all at home because I'm not bothering anyone if I break something that's on me. But it just feels kind of disrespectful to do that in a public gym setting unless you have like explicit thumbs up from everyone involved.
Well, that's where I wanted to kind of end this and pull this kind of full circle. Is we've talked about old time strongmen, they're performers. You're performing through social media. Have you ever done a live lift of some wackiness, and have you ever considered that? You know, I'd like to see it. I'd check it out and see, all right, what's this dude doing?
That does sound like neat and fun, but at the same time, like a lot of these lifts, I'm doing a lot of like workshopping with them. There's a lot of trial and error, especially in like some things I don't know if they're going to work. I hate to like hype up like, oh, I'm going to do this awesome thing, everyone. And then they watch me for half an hour dicking around trying to figure out how to make it work.
Well, what about some of your greatest hits? You know, some of the,
things I already know I do. Plus, to a certain degree, like some days it's just not there. I hate to hype it up and like, oh, it's just one of those days where I can't get the plates up.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, that's also why I'm not a huge fan of like formal competition. Like I said, I'll do, especially the online stuff where you just kind of send in a video anywhere for the month. That's fine. I have done some strongman. That's fine enough, but I'm not super big into competition because I want to do the best I can on the day that happens out and not be like forced into this one time slot where I might be able to do pretty good, but the chances are that everything's going to align for my absolute best potential in that one tiny time is not really there. So if I can just do it whenever, which is what I like to do, less stress, I can do the very best I can. And some people are like, well, that's still a point of competition. You have to, go live up to these standards and go this time like everyone else. And that's what makes it fair. It's like, I'm not trying to beat you here. I just want to lift heavy things. So that's a lot of same issues I think I would have with like a live performance. Like maybe someday I think it'd be a fun thing. People probably want to watch it, but
I think it would be great.
Not really something I've planned right now, but it is something I've thought about. Just if it's like live streaming.
What part of the country are you?
I'm in Wisconsin. So
Wisconsin,
Midwest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, in the beautiful, beautiful town of French Lick, Indiana, there is Home Gym Con in April 2024. So if you're feeling inspired, if you're feeling like, you know what, Rob planted the seed here. Rob put this
do a live performance at Home Gym Con.
Well, there was a deadlift party last year at Home Gym Con that was completely informal. Like you just whatever, people just got up and lifted. Like it wasn't a set lineup of people. I mean, there were people that said they would do it, but then anyone else who wanted to come over and just deadlift would just deadlift. There was a guy in a Power Ranger suit. It was great. And there was a strongman log as well. Same idea. Just kind of kept adding weights on. People dropped out whenever they dropped out, and they kept going. I was thinking in my head, man, like on a deadlift platform, I would love it if you were just doing what you just described. Like
just Walston and Jefferson it.
Yeah, just like tinkering around. Like, people will be like, oh, okay, we're up to in the 400s. And people are like getting their PRs. And then you're coming up and like turning your foot backwards to like see if you can grab it with your pinky finger and still lift it. I would like to see that. Like Kaizen DIY Gym, he did like a DIY project, like live at Home Gym Con, so people could see him kind of like work through the project. I think it'd be cool to see you tinker around and work through the lift. Like, who knows what the
There's a barbell and a lot of empty space around, maybe some higher ceilings, and just see what pops out.
Yeah. People be wondering, like, why are they setting up a drop ceiling in a convention center?
Why is there a red circle around this platform?
Yeah. Do not enter.
Why is there a splash zone warning?
Yeah. There's just a bearded man with a barbell. I don't know what he's doing. So, hey, there's plenty of time to go until April 2024. Just let it kind of marinate. See how you feel about it.
I can give you a maybe. I'll give that's okay. the biggest commitment I can give right now.
Well, we'd love to have you. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in once again to Home Gym History. Thank you so much to Mark. Mark, where can they find you?
Deadliest Lift on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok, but mostly Instagram. The other one's just it's all the same stuff. So if you're going to follow anywhere, cool. Probably Instagram. It's got all the videos. I have longer form written works. If I'm going to plug anything, if you look in my bios on any of those ones that's mentioned, there'll be a link to the Snap City Google Drive that has all of my actual intelligent content, not just the dumb videos. Not many people I feel like know about that, but I've gotten a lot of good response about that. People like reading it. They find it very helpful. So maybe you'll find it helpful too. And I'd love to have more people, get some actual benefit rather than just slapstick entertainment from the stuff I'm putting out. So
I think that's very cool. And yeah, I saw you started to post like a longer form. You swipe through their images of the text and you can read through.
Yeah, it's not the best way to put long form stuff, but yeah, I mean, that's really the only way you can put like a long written work on Instagram. It's kind of hinky. It's hard to read. So everything I post on Instagram, you can get it as just a Word document on the Google Drive. Nice. So much easier to read. So yeah, if you have any interest in that, check it out.
Yeah, I definitely will. And I encourage listeners to do that as well. Make sure you follow Mark. And then as always, if you want to support Home Gym History, drop a comment. Let us know what kind of deadly lifts have you done at home? And of course, just having fun. We don't want you hurting yourself for real. We don't want you joining Snap City just yet. And you can find me on Vintage Weights PGH on both YouTube and Instagram. Thanks so much for listening and watching. Catch you next time.